Hey guys, and welcome back. This week we are going to take a baby step into the big topic, which is intuition. We're going to focus on a little segment that I think is a beautiful gateway into a rest of conversations later on. But what we're going to talk about this week is how intuition works differently for different people, and how it is a very personal process, how it is a very personal engagement with the energies around you, and how there's not just one way to be intuitive. Um, we have a very stereotyped version of an intuitive where they see angels, they see passed on loved ones, they see things in their crystal ball. And a lot of times we end up in our own worlds trying to mimic that or trying to reach that level of performance, when that's not the case. We don't all learn that way. We don't all intuit things that way. So, simply stated, intuition is the ability to be in tune with your moment, to be in tune with the present moment, to really be able to see and recognize and interpret the energies that are in front of you, whether they're coming from your surroundings, from yourself, from other people, to be able to intuitively recognize, read, and report or relate to those energies. And just like in a classroom setting, when we're presented with information, just like in an intuitive setting, we're presented with information. In this classroom, we know that people learn differently. We know we have the visual, the auditory, the hands-on learners. We know we have the group performers or the solitary student. And we're very quick to say, oh yes, people learn differently. But learning is just applying and recognizing information, processing it in a way that is beneficial. And so intuition is really just studying and intaking information from your present moment. And just like we do it all differently in the classroom, we do it all differently in our intuitive spaces or in our day-to-day lives. So what I want to do is kind of break it off into a few different segments, break it off into a few different ways that we may interpret or intuit information. So I'm going to start with the big one, the visual people. And basically all that is the energy in front of you. The energies coming off of the person or the place or the situation or the forest relates to your subconscious mind, and your mind spits out an image that best symbolizes that energy. So if all of a sudden you're walking and you see a vision of a horse, or you see a vision of a deer, or you see a certain crystal, or you see a passed on loved one, that is your mind relaying a symbol that best capsulizes the energies in front of you. And so people with this kind of intuition, where they see things, where they genuinely see things in their imagination, which is to say, imagination is just image creation. You're creating images, or you're creating symbols for yourself, to be able to read and process and relate out back into the world. So those kind of people aren't the majority. They're not the majority. So don't feel pressured to live up to that. It's just like left-handed people aren't the majority, and there's no reason to envy or pursue a left-handed career when you're not that. That's not yours. So I'm going to bop over from that, which is visual or energetic relayance, subconscious, da 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 da. And I'm going to bop over into one that I know most people are familiar with too, which is empathic intuition or emotional intuition. And this one is very different because it's not a symbol in front of you that you interpret. It is an emotion within you that you need to discern and dissect. So a lot of people, as I know most of you know, that have emotional intuition do find the snag of, is this my feeling, or is this feeling being, am I picking up on this from somebody else? And we can kind of really lose ourselves in that discernment where you pick up somebody else's funk and call it your own and try and work it out, but you can never find a solution to it because it's not yours. You just picked up on that energy and decided, I'm gonna keep this. I guess it's mine now. But what's cool about emotional intuition is that it is very personal. you can really do a lot of amazing work with that because you feel it. It is part of your experience. Like I said, it's not just something that's in front of you that you're like, okay, that's a horse, that means freedom to me, and all right, so that when you're looking for freedom, it's like, no, you feel the snags, you feel the limitations, you can feel all of the different emotions. And I think it's really important to remember that you can ask if it's your emotion. You can ask, is this something I need to feel? Is this something I am generating? And then you can ask a follow-up question if it's not your emotion. What is this about? What is triggering this? And so in my head, I see it like the emotion comes on to you, and you can pull it back like a scroll, and you can read it, and you can find out so many intimate, beautiful details about this emotion and why it exists for this other individual, or for this space, or for this forest, or for this animal. You can really read in and see the cause, see it's how it's manifesting, maybe even feel a liberative solution, or a possibility that might liberate the individual from this feeling, or enhance it if it's a beautiful feeling. Empaths are some of the most beautiful people I know because they're really able to connect with you on an emotional level, whether that's enthusiastically or compassionately. Those who are emotionally intuitive really have the opportunity to be there with you, which is just beautiful to me. So we got the energetic visual folks, the emotionally and empathic individuals, and then there's one called the mental intuitive. Okay, the mental intuitive is the person whose intuition comes to them as a thought, as almost a fully constructed idea, as words, or a strike of inspiration, or just knowing. It's actually kind of hard for me to describe it or expound upon it because it is that simple. A lot of times these individuals will hear something that sounds like it's not quite their voice, but they heard it and it sounds right. Or they'll just walk into a situation or be presented with a situation and just have the answer. It'll just pop into their head. And these people usually have a hard time discerning, is this my thought or is this my intuition? Just like an emotionally intuitive person can have an issue, is this my emotion or is this somebody else's that I'm picking up on? Mental intuitives have the same part, or the same issue a lot of times, but it's not, I don't know, they don't feel it as much. It's genuinely like, is this my thought? Is this my thought? Am I thinking this, or am I picking up on this? And just like with the intuitives of emotion, you're allowed to ask that question. Is this my intuition or is this my mind? And you're allowed to have an answer come from that. I'm going to take a moment to hit on something that's important for all of these different intuitive types, that's important for really discernment in general, or prayer in general. When you ask a question, it's like holding down a button on a walkie-talkie. You transmit that out into the ethers, you transmit it out to God. And in order for you to get an answer back, you need to let go of that button. You need to surrender control. You need to be willing to stand and sit in the quiet for a second before maybe you get an answer. So don't put too much pressure on that button. Don't put too much pressure on needing to hear back, because God doesn't keep secrets. He will relay the truth that you're asking. He will give you some sort of clue or some sort of straight up answer if you're willing to sit in that quiet space for a while, which is a lot of it, like I said, for all of these different intuitive types. So far we've covered the energetic or the visual, the emotional, and the mental. And then we're going to bop into one that is really amazing at its core and really kind of hard for me to describe, so bear with me for a minute. And these are the physical intuitives. The people who relate best with the physical manifestations of energy. So they're the ones that can touch you physically and then understand what you're going through. Or can touch a crystal and feel its energy, or a pet, or a space. They're the ones whose bodies intuit the information for them. Just like a visionary intuitive or an energetic intuitive will see an image from their perception space and they can interpret that symbol, the physical intuitive does the same thing, but it goes through their body. They touch something and their body responds in a way that they have to then interpret. whether that's the tapping of their knee or the way their hands move, or even just a feeling in their stomach. It's a very physical feeling, sensational, intuitive way. I've honestly only met a handful of people that process information this way, and it took them a long time to recognize it because it's not really talked about. But man, when these folks got in their groove, they're the kind of people that you could just a quick little story. I handed someone a lighter of mine because they wanted to try it out. And they're like, I see a silver Corvette and palm trees in Florida. And I'm like, that's not mine. But it ended up, I had snagged that lighter from my mom. And that she's all about that. She does have a silver convertible. She does love palm trees in Florida and the ocean. And so even though it was in my possession, they read the physical energy that was attached to that lighter and were able to pick up on, oh, you swiped this from your mom, didn't you? So just as a quick example, it was mind-blowing, and we all laughed pretty hard about it because I got called out. My mom was there, and she called me out too. So anyway, what I really wanted to take the time for is to understand or explain that your intuitive practice is very personal, like I said. Your ability to be present in a moment and pick up on what is here. Your ability to process and be at one and in tune with your present moment isn't going to match up with a stereotyped version, or what you think you should be, or how you think you should see or feel or do things. Your ability to be in this moment and process and be in harmony or in tune with this moment is very much yours. It's going to come from you. It's your own way of relating with here. It's your own way of relating with God's present moment. And so I just wanted to lay out that if you're having difficulties matching your conception or your idea of one of these spaces, you can drop that perception. You can drop that judgment. You can drop that concept, and you can really allow yourself to be in tune with the here and now. I've seen people do it by drawing pictures, by seeing different cards, by seeing animals, by relaying or almost seemingly like channeling very deep issues for myself and really understanding it. I've seen people give me compassion in a space that I didn't know I needed it. I've just seen people, when they allow themselves to be themselves, really knock the socks off of it and really be able to be present and really be able to show up in a very beautiful way. And I just wanted to let you know that there is a way for you to be here, and you're meant to be here, and I'm glad that you are. And that's the heart of the matter, guys. I love you very much, and I am excited to come back with you next week. All right.